Welcome to Total Retail Talks, your podcast channel for retail knowledge.
Hi, and welcome to episode 174 of Total Retail Talks. In today's episode, Executive Editor Joe Keenan sits down with Patrick Stewart, CEO of Apricot Lane Boutique. Listen in as they discuss what Apricot Lane is doing to acquire and retain millennial consumers. And now, on to the show.
Thanks for joining me, Patrick.
Hi, Joe. Hey, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
So I think a good place to start would be to have you tell our audience a little bit about Apricot Lane Boutique.
So thanks for asking that. A lot of people haven't heard of us because at 75 stores we're in select cities, and if you're local, you know us, but if not, we just haven't come to your neighborhood yet. So we're a women's fashion boutique. Our typical stores are, say, about 2,000 square feet, and we're all locally owned. We're a franchise. So what we do is empower anyone that really wants to be in the retail world but knows that there's so many unknowns. We remove those and we make it so that you've got a gigantic support network. So think of it as like lots of friends that are experts in retail to make it so that you can understand the ops side, buying side, marketing, hiring, getting the right real estate in the right location so that you can have a thriving business. And that's how we're able to set up so many people for success. That's just part of our unique value proposition to the customer. What an Apricot Lane is, it's a fantastic shopping experience because we the local owners actually do the buying of the product for their local audience and buy in really small quantities so that everything sells out. And that way the girl is getting something, it's not 100% unique, but it's been bought in such a small quantity that it's almost like luxury goods, but at really great prices.
So let's talk a little bit about that customer. Can you talk about the typical Apricot Lane customer? Is it skew on a younger age, or can you maybe describe her a little bit?
Yeah, what you'll find is that we're very popular with, say, ages 25 to about 36. But we have customers that are definitely older, and we have customers that are younger than 25, but that kind of is the sweet spot. And so we've got a lot of millennials that fall into that age category, but the millennial customer just needs to be quickly defined for your audience that may or may not know this. They're the largest generation in all of American history right now, bigger than baby boomers, with more spending power. So they're the most important generation ever, particularly because they just earned that number one spot this year from buying power. So they're entering their prime buying years, and understanding what both their wants and their needs are is kind of like a super high to do for anyone that's in business.
Yeah. So you mentioned that kind of the sheer volume of millennials that are out there and the buying power. They're entering their prime and peak earning years. So why do you believe? There's a lot written about gaining that millennial spending and gaining that customer. Why do you believe that traditional retailers have struggled in this area? They haven't been able to capture the loyalty of the millennial customer.
I think that so many retailers are old school. They, particularly in, say, the fashion world, what they do is they adhere to old practices, which are, in order to get something at a low price, they followed a volume rule, which is buy in really big quantities and buy and conduct that purchase for that product, say 3 or 4 months in advance, trying to predict what a trend is going to be. And so that's what big box retailers are. They're buying in gigantic quantities, for the most part, equally across the nation. Mm-hmm. So that they're treating the girl in California like the girl in North Dakota. And they should not do that. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
at least it doesn't work well that way. And so what you've got is a lot of customers have summarily dismissed and rejected that old type of business, as they should have, to get to what they really want, which is something more of, particularly in the world of fashion, something more of the now and something special. They've asked for it. They're proving what they want by where they spend. And a company like ours is tapping definitely into that, making things very special, not just from the product standpoint, but also from the service side. So making, you hear a lot about experiential shopping and making things very special particularly from the brick and mortar side. You need to do that, and you totally can. And when you do that, you win. And when you don't, that customer just says, well, I might as well just go for convenience and buy online. If you're not going to make it super special from the way the experience is in the store and the way the product is, then I'll just go for convenience instead.
Yeah, so you've talked about kind of some of the struggles of big box retail in terms of gaining that loyalty of the millennial customer, and you explained some of the reasons. So then I'm interested then, what Apricot Lane is doing to more effectively engage its millennial customers. You mentioned the stores that you have, also selling your product online. So can you talk maybe an example or two of kind of the experience that you're talking about, not only experience but product as well, to kind of gain the favor of your millennial customer base?
Yeah, so the experience is this. Every one of our stores is locally owned, and that local owner is put in charge of all of the buying that's done. So corporate doesn't do the buying and say, here it is, and we've tried to listen to you, store owner. The store owner listens directly to the people that shop the store and buys and caters specifically for them, buys in really small quantities. And then when the product comes in, the very first person to try that on is that store owner and the people that work in that store. So they are experts exactly in the product because they purchased it for specific customers, tried it on to make sure that it was great. They understand the quality, the fit. They really then become fashion experts. And when a customer walks through that door, they're engaged at a high level by those experts they're truly welcoming, legitimately and authentically have a joy for the product and for the customer, and that is both that's so deeply felt by the customer. They immediately understand the difference. It's like going to a fine dining restaurant and having a relationship with a really great chef compared to every other dining experience that you have, which is not that. One very much stands out as different and special and great. And that's an example. I hope that was a good one for you.
Yeah, no, and you're bringing that level of personalization that, every retailer is trying to create that one-to-one personalized relationship with the customers, and you're doing that on a couple of different levels. The merchandise that you said that's targeted to specific areas, and then also the, the experience that you're getting with that, fashion experts who are your employees. So, that's kind of works on a couple different ways there.
Yeah. And it makes a big difference to be locally owned because, most local store owner operators and almost any kind of business have a much greater appreciation for the customer that's coming through the door. They really have a passionate love for that customer. And then what happens is, in being a great expert, the talking points get to be very specific. So the conversation can be something like, well, is there a special event that you have coming up? Or are you looking for, say, a dress for a wedding, for a party, for work? What is it? And the conversation is authentic and real because that person, being a product expert, is really guiding them to product that is really perfect for that person. And that then isn't a one-off experience. That person is going to come in again, and you get a really much deeper relationship, customer and shop owner, when you are the owner. That leads to much greater. It's a deeper relationship, like I said. But what then happens is the next time that person comes in, there's product even more suitable for that person because that owner is the buyer. They're bringing in product specifically with that shopper in mind. And you can see how that then creates loyalty, but in the great way, which is I'm earning the loyalty from the shop owner's perspective, and from the shopper's perspective, they're like, this becomes my favorite place more and more every time I go there.
Yeah, it's a continual learning experience for the shop owner.
Right.
So one of the things we've heard about millennials, and some of the research that's been done on kind of their shopping behaviors, is that they skew a little bit towards preferring to purchase from brands that they kind of share common values, beliefs as their own. What is Apricot Lane doing in terms of the social consciousness of the brand, and how does that factor into the messaging that you're sending out?
Well, one of the things, there's multiple areas. Sure, I'll give you a couple there. One of the things is we, on a corporate level, Apricot Lane, have partnered with 3 Strands, which is an organization that is about empowering victims of human trafficking. Empowering them means we're setting them up to be they're in their own business. They are in the retail space making different types of jewelry that we end up selling in our stores. But the first thing that we do is recognize that human trafficking is definitely a problem. We're setting them up to be in control of their own destiny because they become business people all on their own. And we fundamentally think that is very important. That's one of our core beliefs. That is empowering women in a very meaningful way. And then the product shows up in our stores, and we've got a story to tell that's important for us. But the story doesn't end there. Because they're individual owner-operators, they then see, hey, I really believe in this, and they then get involved in other meaningful things that are local to their community. So what we see frequently is that you could go into an Apricot Lane, doesn't matter where you go, into that store, you're going to find multiple charitable organizations that store owner believes in. It could be that they are involved in the school. It could be that they're involved in some other things that have political points of view, and definitely you'll see 3 Strands. But the great thing is you'll see multiple opportunities where you as the shopper can say, okay, this is where I want to vote with my wallet, and I like what you guys are doing. And so it's all incredibly authentic. It's all, the store owner will be able to talk in depth about what they particularly like about this. It isn't forced on them by corporate, other than we did make everyone aware of 3 Strands as one of our core beliefs, and we've always found people very welcoming. If your listeners want to know more about that, you can visit apricotlaneboutique.com. It's directly on our website. You can watch a nice video that was made about it. It's very educational. But bring your Kleenex, because it is a heart-wrenching story.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you give that autonomy to your local store owners. That's it's commendable. I kind of want to shift gears a little bit. You've talked, sort of about the locally owned boutiques, and we've talked about this millennial customer. Some, kind of one of the things you hear about millennials and younger shoppers is that they're not going into stores, and kind of the retail is dead headline that's kind of been plastered all around. I'm interested in your perspective here and what you're doing with your locally owned boutiques to not only drive traffic into your stores, so get these girls and women into your stores, but also, once they're there, what are you doing to kind of ultimately drive conversions?
Well, the real interesting thing is that there's a lot of false narrative about retail being dead. It's not. It just evolves, and most of the purchasing happening through retail is in brick and mortar. Online happens to be growing, and Amazon is the one leading a lot of that charge, and poor retailers are suffering, but good retailers are thriving. So, we've got double-digit comp store growth throughout most of our stores, and we're adding stores. We're adding like 20 a year only because I want to control the growth. But more people that want to open an Apricot Lane than I'm actually able to fulfill by getting them into the right locations. So we're self-limiting our growth. But as people discover great retail, it is far superior than online. Millennials specifically, what they like doing is they like doing research about where they want to spend their money. So they definitely do a lot of research on social media, and they're trying to connect with their friends to get what they view as an authentic viewpoint of where the best thing is. So if you think about like trying to hunt down a restaurant, if a friend has been there and says it's great, and you're like, excellent, that's what I needed to know, fantastic. As opposed to just looking it up and saying, hey, I saw that it exists, or just driving by and wanting to experiment. There's too many good choices. So you want to listen to a friend if they've done it, because they're the ultimate vetting. So in the same way, millennials do that with, say, apparel shopping. They want to know, hey, have my friends discovered this and can vouch for it? And then great, that's where I want to give that a shot. And that's exactly what they do, and they definitely prefer the in-store experience to the online. They should. Mm-hmm. It's the difference of going for a fine dining experience versus getting takeout. I mean, one is convenient and fast, yes, but it's definitely not superior. So the in-store is the preferred, with doing a lot of research first.
Yeah, they're well informed when they walk into the doors of your stores.
Yeah, people have time. Time is highly valuable. So the research is something that can be done in the evening, and then it can be a great experience in store if they vetted it properly.
So my final question, Patrick, is, we've talked about Apricot Lane and some of the things it's doing to attract millennials. What are the priorities for the brand as it looks to continue to grow? Is it investments in new technologies? Is it more stores, new distribution channels? Maybe all of the above. Can you kind of pinpoint some of the things you're looking at as you look to continue to grow?
Right. Well, we do a lot of things, and each one of those things that you mentioned is important. Being in the right location is important to the store owner. What we do, and like I said, I kind of have about 20 stores per year that I can open up without stretching the service that we offer. So headquarters, what we do in setting up an owner is we need to give everyone the very best operational support that we can. And it starts with finding the right location that's going to be a lease that's not too much based on the type of sales volume that you're going to do. So we're very careful with that. The real estate decision is very important, and we help people navigate those waters. Now, when someone is now in business, another thing that we do are we're introducing to our store owners all the newest and best upcoming brands. These are brands that that aren't widely known. They aren't Vince Camuto yet, but they're more like Vince Camuto when that brand was within its first 3 years of existence. Hadn't been heard of, but had a certain taste level and quality level that has led to great popularity. But what we're trying to do is discover those things first. Customers love that they're getting things that are fantastically great styles and that the overall cost is low. We make those introductions to and set up those relationships and are able to get significant discounts because of our overall size. And then we introduce that to our individual store owners, and that's there's a lot of up and coming vendors establishing, getting better and better discounts or first run products before they sell out, or getting special treatments like free shipping. But what I'm getting at is vendor relationship management. That's one of the things that we constantly have on our radar. And then when you talk about tech, yes, we are leading tech. So when we open stores, and I said that our typical square footage is 2,000 square foot, we try to set up people with the best tech to make streamlining their operations smooth. An example would be something like there's no cash wrap. Why? Because it's big, it's bulky, it eats up a lot of the square footage of the store, and maybe you can walk around with iPads and conduct transactions that way. And that's an example of using Just one example
Yeah.
of using tech in a smart way. But then there's the whole marketing side, being able to target and reach people in a very low cost but highly effective way as another bit of the tech service that we provide.
Great. Well, I want to thank Patrick Stewart of Apricot Lane Boutique for joining me today. Please check out our podcast channel page, mytotalretail.com/podcasts for show notes. Total Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Stitcher, but make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. Thanks, and I look forward to you joining us on the next episode of Total Retail Talks.